Independence Party. They say they shocked the world in 1998 when the two-party system fought for change, for a new direction in the halls of Washington. Fought for change to take our country back when the struggle has been won. Vote for change you can believe in. Vote for jobs and security, but not for Democrats and Republicans, not for bailouts and misery. It's America the beautiful that we want to save. The American dream, the home of the brave. We've got to get our country on the right road again. Vote for change. Vote for change.
Hi, I'm Steve Carlson, and today I want to lay out my positive, constructive positions on the People's Voice in Minnesota elections. Keep the dream alive. I was going to call the issue Independent Voters' Dream, but I changed it because today, in the days and weeks leading up to the Independence Day in Minnesota, which is what I call the August 12th Independence Day primary, it is not just a dream. Today, the 41% of Minnesota voters who are independent still have the Minnesota Independence Party. And if you maintain this gift with your careful vote, the Independence Party can be more than just a fringe faction for progressive parties pushing promiscuity, partying, and pandering for votes, or Libertarian Party members seeking to get on the ballot when they can't do it on their own. I'm a Tea Party candidate because I was driven to get into the race for Congress because of the totally out-of-control housing finance crash in 2008 and the unethical, unconstitutional Obamacare package passed in the night and without reading it first in 2009. There was only one way to stop them, and that was to get involved directly in federal elections. Go to Washington and fix it. I believed, and still believe, that I have what it takes, that I am well able, and have done this before, worked through legislative and policy-making bodies in a branch of Minnesota state government. So I jumped in, and thanks to Jesse Ventura in 1998, the Independence Party had a spot on the ballot. Now they might not, but now is the time. MinnPost, the online news source to which many journalists have migrated, as our two flagship newspapers have been bought out and downsized, describes our situation. They say the Senate race could also turn out to be vital to the IP's future. That's vital in the bad sense of bordering on flatlining. The party has to reach at least 5% of the vote in at least one statewide race every 4 years in order to maintain its legal standing as a quote-unquote major party under Minnesota law, which gets the party access easily to the ballot, access to state matching funds, and an extra argument for inclusion in televised debates, although that last one is not a legal matter. Because the party didn't make a serious run in the 2012 Senate race, won easily by Democrat Amy Klobuchar, its major party status is on the line this year, although it could preserve its status by breaking 5% in the races for senator, governor, or any of the statewide constitutional offices, all of which will be on the ballot. The article puts major party in quotation marks, and I don't want to quibble about whether it's major or minor, augmented or diminished. Whatever mode you sing it in, the current strategy has not been successful in either growing the party or in providing the viable third-party vehicle that we need to be there for the 41% of Minnesota voters who are independent, not DFL, not Republican. This would include people who identify with the Tea Party, or perhaps with Ron Paul, Ayn Rand, Rand Paul, whomever. Or people who just want to be on the sideline, watching and making up their own mind. And that's okay. But I want to urge you to vote for me August 12th as a step toward giving us an alternative to Al Franken. If you elect me, I will take votes from Al Franken. And in a wave election, I might beat Al Franken. One thing I know, My positions on the issues beat Al Franken's positions. Al Franken is a danger to American democracy, to American health care, American education, and late-night TV. I will work to develop and maintain a true third-party national movement in Minnesota. Use the U.S. Senate as a bully pulpit to bring issues that are a big deal back to you in Minnesota. I'll take the money out of election politics and maintain social media fora on all the national issues for you to be involved. I will recruit and lead a staff designed to do this, as well as support legislative action in Congress. Fundraising, not so much. It's a waste of time and money. I also want to take America forward by reversing the growth of the national debt, by transitioning the power and resources from redundant and inappropriate federal departments and agencies back to the state of Minnesota. I'm a bit different than the Republican mantra of just lowering taxes. I want a Minnesota growth strategy. I applauded Tom Horner for this approach in 2010, when he last secured the Independence Party spot on the ballot with a strong showing for governor. But in addition to his emphasis on innovation and leadership, I see the family as key to any growth economy. A mother and father for every child, a stable home with access to jobs, to quality education, and freedom of religious conscience and religious liberty, and free exercise of religion. I don't see these as just social issues to be crushed by the Independence Party clique's rigid party doctrine of social tolerance, which is really social intolerance of the faithful. I see family and family values as the crucial engine of growth. Yes, reproduction, stable, loving, and faithful families, and nurturing and raising up children are engines of growth, which we are all a part of, unless we prefer to wither on the vine, which I do not. All of this is at my website, stevecarlsonforcongress2010.com. The Minnesota Independence Party. It began as a legitimate third-party movement in 1992, and it is a vehicle there today for independent voters who looked to the Tea Party as a voice against Obamacare and financial bailouts and threats to national security during the Obama administration. And I don't think Minnesota's independent voters are too pleased with the heavy-handed tactics of Obama and Lois Lerner and Al Franken, with the IRS burdening the First Amendment rights of conservative and Tea Party voters and organizations, or forcing those who want to follow their faith to use their businesses as a vehicle to spread contraceptives that abort already existing life. I don't think independent voters want Hillary Clinton to spread chaos and strife around the world in the name of raising up women. We don't want women in combat and drafted. We don't want federal takeovers of health care and education. A new CNN poll finds only 18% of Americans say they or someone in their family are better off because of Obamacare, while nearly twice that number, 35%, say they or someone in their family is worse off. In a larger group, 46% say they are about the same after Obamacare as before. Well, as they say, first do no harm. For those with incomes below $50,000, 21% say they are better off because of the Affordable Care Act, but 35% say they are worse off. 44% are the same. I know President Obama said support would grow as people saw the benefits start to come online. But Obama is the one who is making changes in the law passed by Congress to make sure the benefits and crippling costs don't come online while critical elections are being held. Only all the elections being held are critical, and they mock efforts by the Tea Party through the Republicans to repeal Obamacare as if they think it's some kind of insanity to try to repeal it. And the last time there was an effort to repeal Obamacare, Obama's supporters threatened to arrest and try for treason those Tea Party members of Congress, about 32 people, because they were supposedly failing in their duty to support Obamacare because it's the law of the land. Well, guess what? Obamacare isn't the law of the land. Why do I say that? Because he's altered it beyond recognition, and key elements, including Medicaid in every state and federal subsidies to support it, are being struck down and threatened in the federal courts. And thank God the Supreme Court has saved us from regulations created by Obama, not the congressional act of the Democrats in 2009, that forced those with faith and conscience to supply all the contraceptives demanded by people like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, or else face crippling fines. I can tell you, the government can be oppressive. Democrats can be unreasonable and destructive. This recklessness and irresponsibility, combined with their obstinacy bordering on shutting down and destroying the government, and threatening treason for a member of Congress carrying out his or her duty and the power of the purse, is no doubt a big reason 41% of Minnesota voters do not identify with the DFL. But why don't we identify with the Republicans? Well, the mainstream media like to set up this little game. Here are all the unreasonable things the Democrats are doing to Washington on this side, and then here are the Republicans representing all the rest of the American people on the other. Let's choose sides, and we'll cover the action. And then it's like, oh no, Mr. Bill, or maybe, oh no, Mr. Bills. Kurt Bills, when he debated Amy Klobuchar in Duluth in 2012, let her take credit for being a fiscal conservative because her party forced the sequester, forced cuts across the board. And she bragged it was the largest cut in government spending in 2 decades. And Kurt Bills, as the Republican candidate, sat there politely and never called her on it, never said, isn't the DFL party the party of a budget is just a piece of paper, totally non-binding? Wasn't the sequester supposed to be a doomsday scenario that no one would ever support? And now you're taking credit for it as if it is a fiscally responsible and well-crafted bill to guide American tax and spend policy. Oh no, Mr. Bills, indeed. The forced cuts are not fiscally responsible, and it is unethical for any legislator to come to the 2014 elections and take credit for those forced cuts, which are really just an extension of Betty McCollum's infamous line that, quote, a budget is just a piece of paper, totally non-binding, unquote. And they didn't pass budgets for years up there. It's governing without a budget plan. It's like driving your car at night without headlights. You're going to crash. Now, while I realize it was the Democrats and Barack Obama who came up with this sequester idea, originally supposedly a doomsday budget that would force Democrats and Republicans to coalesce around a fiscal solution, it was Republicans who caved on the sequester itself, not any kind of rational compromise. And while the mainstream media applauded this, I do not. Now that is the nightmare for independent voters. Remember, it's not seen as a nightmare by Democrats who take credit for it, or Republicans who want to use it as a prop which they think will help them gain office. It's seen as a nightmare, an endless nightmare, by the 41% of Minnesota voters who stay away from the major parties during the time leading up to an election, and then, as they say, hold their noses as they vote for the party anyway. And we all wait to see which way the nose holders will break on election day. And I have a solution to this. Instead of giving a $4 trillion budget to whichever major party, Democrat or Republican, wins a kind of game each election cycle, let's get rid of the budget crisis. Let's transition the power and resources back to Minnesota. Let's not send it out to Washington for Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid to dispose of, and Al Franken, and decide Minnesota's future. But let's not play, oh no, Mr. Bill, with Minnesota's future either. So in 1992, this third-party movement happened at the national level, and as a result, Bill Clinton snuck into office with a plurality of the vote because Ross Perot, a Texas businessman, financed his own third-party campaign for president and grabbed 19% of the vote. That's primarily because George H.W. Bush backed away from his Read My Lips, No New Taxes pledge, and because Perot wanted to oppose the trade agreement with Mexico, or NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. And so Perot was able to draw from disillusioned Republicans and disillusioned Democrats to form a national third-party movement. And so the Minnesota Independence Party was born. Only Minnesota's a little bit different than some other states, and not everybody wanted to be wedded to Ross Perot's ideas. So after pulling together the nucleus of an independence party through internal squabbles, they cut themselves off from Ross Perot's party. Only then they looked for another presidential contender, and it looked like they would follow Pat Buchanan's conservative message. which was socially as well as politically conservative. And the ruling clique cut themselves off from these two national candidates, but as a result turned themselves, not immediately, but today, into political eunuchs who are only interested in drugs, decadence, and debauchery, who don't respect our Minnesota Constitution and Bill of Rights, and who are about to go down the drain if we don't step in and save the movement, save the party, and point it in a different direction. The best reason to stop this silly political navel-gazing of the internal cliques at the Independence Party, as it is now, is that it completely blocks our thinking, let alone effective action on momentous national issues which affect us all. Furthermore, people are not able to debate and address this wide range of issues. We're left with rigid party structures at the state level. This idea of Mark Jenkins that we're not wedded to national parties is fine, but the real party dominance in Minnesota is not the national party, it's the state party. It's the state DFL that has gender quotas, race quotas, and what they call sexual preference quotas. And it's the state DFL who pushed through Minnesota statutes that force you to go along with this scheme, or you are forced to stay away from their precinct caucus and not allowed to vote. It's the state DFL who says they can do these things because they're a private organization who is not required to honor the United States Constitution or the Minnesota Constitution. The solution to this is for candidates for the Independence Party to plunge headlong, as we did in 2010, with great effect, into the national debate and link it to the state's government. We, together with the Tea Party, really shook things up in 2010, although the Republicans kind of dropped the ball, engaging in romances in the legislature, leading to the downfall of their leadership, while proposing an unnecessary marriage amendment which withered when Barack Obama stuck his nose into Minnesota's marriage laws, because he too could not provide compelling national leadership in the 2012 elections. My two opponents for the U.S. Senate nomination for the Independence Party do not measure up to leaders with ideas or ability to make the U.S. Senate work. And actually, Hannah Nicollet, the Libertarian, was supposedly going to be the endorsed candidate for U.S. Senate, but switched in the 11th hour as a man with a CIA and NSA background who's just been in Minnesota for a few years came to Minnesota, and the Independence Party governing clique to nudge her aside. I'll tell you right now, I don't see Hannah Nicollet or Kevin Terrell or any of the party's nominees for the other state constitutional offices, auditor or attorney general, as able to clear the 5% threshold in the general election November 4th. So it would be off the cliff. Goodbye Independence Party. Fringe faction infiltrated by libertarians falls off the ballot, and Libertarian Write-In Party emerges as the last best hope. That's the nightmare scenario. However, I have consistently beat that threshold, and though I'm not satisfied with beating 6% in 2010 and 2012 in a safe DFL district in a sideline House race mostly ignored by the media, I am grateful that people listened to my positions, my temperament and experience, and turned out to vote for me. I have had the highest percentage of the vote of any candidate for Congress not on the DFL or Republican ticket each time I ran in 2010 and 2012. Those were tough years for America, but we began to turn this country around by clipping the Democrats and Barack Obama. This year we need to beat Al Franken to take the Senate away from Obama and Harry Reid, but we also need a leader in the Senate. And if you look at my issues, at my website or in these primary election videos I'm posting on Twitter and Facebook, you'll see I'm ready to lead, ready to make the Senate work to achieve the solutions I set out. Stephen Williams seems like a nice man, but his political ideas on national issues are not ready for Washington. I'll address some of his positions in other videos, but let's take, for example, his ideas about the payroll tax, which funds Social Security and Medicare, and he thinks it should be abolished. Really? These really aren't taxes. They're insurance premiums, so that when you reach age 62, you can draw Social Security retirement, and at 65 can get Medicare, vital medical treatment which you need. But Williams focuses on what he calls the regressive nature of these payments, because they are taken mandatorily from $1 of your wages. Well, of course they are. Otherwise, low-income people could not pay their insurance premiums. and their Social Security benefits at retirement could not be paid. They'd receive next to nothing. So Williams compares our retirement system to China's, seemingly implying that China's system is better than ours. But China allows retirement without too many cruises, I should add, through their social system of extensive extended families who honor their elders and their ancestors. And while I think this is fine, it is not really retirement, at least not what Americans expect. We're trying to preserve the idea of aging with dignity we erected during the Great Depression with Social Security and followed up with Medicare in the 60s. By abolishing this way in which each of us funds these vital programs for our future, Steve Williams would abolish Social Security and Medicare. No, not ready for prime time, with all due respect. We can't afford to go down that road. Same with Kevin Terrell. MinnPost describes him as 50, a business consultant with previous involvement in foreign intelligence work for the U.S. government. His career is limited to working for the National Security Agency, capped by CIA work for 5 years. And his position on NSA spying, as, quote, a former intelligence analyst, I have to say that using the NSA to spy on Americans is astonishing. The principle here is clear: no warrant, no wiretap. It's that simple, only it's not that simple. And he says, I've been on both sides of this equation as a citizen and as an intelligence analyst with a security clearance. I can be a key trusted resource to fiercely defend your constitutional rights while understanding the details of intelligence reports and threats to our nation. Unquote. During Kevin's career, his agencies have launched unacceptable and dangerous spying on American citizens and American companies, and they can take that information which they gain and share it with any of their federal or state government agencies. So it really is dangerous. While they utterly fail to protect us against hacking and attacks by foreign governments, which are crippling many of our important businesses, like Target Corporation, and impacting our checking accounts. So far, I see him arguing that because he had a security clearance, he can be a, quote, key trusted resource, unquote, whatever that is, to fiercely defend your constitutional rights. He claims he still has his eye on the details of intelligence reports about threats to our nation. Does he still have his security clearance? He should tell us. In any event, Terrell, Jenkins, and this version of the Independence Party leadership has led us far from the beginnings of a viable third-party movement. And we, meaning you, need to act quickly to restore that hope and change. And Terrell looks like he's coming out to shut down the independent voters and third-party movement here in Minnesota as a threat to national security, rather than leading anybody anywhere or protecting anybody's constitutional rights. And what did he do to get Hannah Nicollet to move off the ballot at the last moments? America needs to get back to basics now. And the Independence Party, with a viable, proven candidate and debater that I am, for independent and Tea Party voters, is needed to get the election back to the issues. Compare my positions on the issues, my thoroughness and passionate insistence on working through our constitutional order and a Congress without the big money and the hyper-partisanship in the U.S. Senate, to get this nation out of a ditch and back on the road again. Compare these issues to the thin and dubious positions of the other two candidates, and I think you'll see that I am a contender. Look at my video on Al Franken's feeble claims in Rigged that he, quote, reached across both aisles to lead the fight against the scam, unquote. Poetic, but completely untrue. And he seems to position himself as the independent. Again, clever, but completely untrue. He's voted with Barack Obama something like 99% of the time in Washington, including his devastating vote on Obamacare, which is crushing this nation. Franken won't debate. He turned down the State Fair NPR debate. So this won't be easy. But you can take the first step today by voting for Steve Carlson for Senate on August 12th, or before if you vote absentee ballot. On what I call Independence Day, August 12th, the day you act to preserve a voice for the 41% of Minnesota voters who are independent.
They say they shocked the world in 1998 when the two-party system its time had come and gone. Vote for change, vote for change, vote independence. You know the healthcare reform bill did more harm than good. It didn't help the people than it really should. Now they're faced with fines and taxes to pay the government. Vote for change, vote for change, vote independent. With the free market system, our nation was great. We've got to act because it's slipping before it's too late. Let's give our businesses a chance. You know they're pulled their weight. Vote for change, vote for change, vote independence. Now racial equality, you know it seems right. Red, brown and yellow, black, tan and white. Now we've got to pull together to see our country through.
Bringing this issue to you through the social media is part of my commitment to take money out of election politics and to engage you in decisions on voting, but also in shaping policy. So I've begun to lay out my positive, constructive positions on 2014 issues that are important to you in this video. As I've already said, I believe I am well able and bring experience and a track record to each position I take on the most critical issues of the 2014 congressional elections. And there will be some hot ones. Now I know when we turn to a campaign or governance issue, it feels like it is the most important issue of all. And that is as it should be. Each issue should be attended to with the utmost care and detail and responsibility. But in this primary election, we have to be selective. We can't ignore any of these issues, and they build on each other. So if one is listed after the others, it benefits from what has been said before. And I hope as you see my positions on the issues that concern you the most, you will see that I care about the same things you do, and put forward ideas and solutions that can be attained in the United States Senate. I will work with you to achieve them. Here are the issues I will address, each in a separate video, but also seeing each as a part of the whole plan for Congress. And I want to add that I will not treat men's issues and women's issues, race issues, or Democrat, Republican, or even Tea Party issues, because our goal in our Constitution is to have one America. We cannot take that for granted. We are on a road to that achievement, only now we are in a ditch. Here are the issues I seek to convey to you in this short time. I hope that you agree we need to campaign online, for various reasons, but first and foremost to reach everybody possible while taking the money out of politics. I have chosen to use targeted Twitter postings, including YouTube videos, using an approach which appears to be unique. I also post these at my website, stevecarlsonforcongress2010.com, and at my Facebook page. I hope you will feel this is appropriate and useful, and perhaps it is one channel we can all use in future elections. And I hope you'll share these with your friends and family or associates. Day 1, leadership. Day 2, constitutional rights, which I've provided the first part of. There will be an additional video. Day 3, keep the dream alive, the people's voice in Minnesota elections. Day 4 is jobs and the economy. Day 5, healthcare. Day 6, immigration and humanitarian concerns, which I moved up because of statements by Keith Ellison and Mark Dayton. Day 7, education. Day 8, taxes and national debt. Day 9, foreign policy. Day 10, environment. Again, the sequence of these issues does not reflect low priorities for the final day. Instead, those at the end will benefit from greater attention as the primary election day approaches. That's August 12th, Independence Day in Minnesota. I thank you for viewing this. I'm Steve Carlson, and I'm running for the U.S. Senate in that primary.